Watch enough WWE television and you'll see bad guys often actually get rewarded for breaking match rules behind the referee's back. But there are some rules WWE talents really do have to follow, and they're pretty odd. WWE monitors superstars' social media, but contractors for the company aren't required to provide their passwords or other credentials. For any post that's related to storylines, guidance may be provided, but more often than not, these are trained professionals in the art of self-promotion. For example, Dirty Dominic Mysterio's GIF game is on point, and Becky Lynch is an example of a WWE superstar who builds off of television storyline momentum with her social media. Sami Zayn has used his social media to raise money for his charity, Sammy for Syria, but you won't find any hardline political stances on WWE stars' social media, so as not to alienate themselves from fans that are supposed to either love or hate them. That said, once a superstar exits the company, all bets are off. You very well may meet a side of these folks you hadn't seen previously. Jackson Riker, for instance, is one who didn't exactly endear himself to fans or former colleagues with a series of tweets in 2022. The Money in the Bank briefcase has been a staple of WWE television since 2005. Superstars who have won it have been made to carry it wherever they go for nearly 20 years now, with a contract inside the case guaranteeing the holder a title shot whenever they want. The idea is that the briefcase should be so precious to whomever has won it that they would never want to set it aside until it's time to cash in. This, of course, can be a bit cumbersome for the contract holder, especially considering how much WWE superstars travel. Baron Corbin, who captured the briefcase in 2017, once told the Phoenix New Times, "It actually is very hard. The thing is bright blue and says Money in the Bank in giant letters, so walking through the airport, everybody's staring at you, looking at what it is, or there's a lot of people at the airport that want to take pictures now and you're carrying this bright blue briefcase and it's not light. I've got my contract in there too. It's a carry-on, so it's with me 24/7. WWE superstars are supposed to be larger than life, so when they're being interviewed by someone, the company definitely doesn't want them to be seen as anything less than. As the story goes, this is why the interviewer should be shorter than the interviewee, or at least made to look as though they are. Interestingly, former WWE backstage interviewer Jonathan "the Coach" Coachman was a big enough man that a slight mishap influenced Vince McMahon to want to stop him from doing interviews altogether. The Coach told Chris Van Vliet,
"We have a little secret, and you spread your legs out and make the guy look and put them in front of you, and it makes the person look taller."
In one particular interview that was meant to end in a fight, the cameraman zoomed out too quickly and Coach could be seen on camera taking a wide stance. Coachman added, "Vince was furious because it kind of gave away a couple of our secrets, so he was like, you can't do interviews anymore." Ultimately, this led to Coachman's in-ring career, for better or worse. Wrestlers are known to have exhausting travel schedules, so you might think working earlier on a card might have some benefits, including the opportunity to leave before the show is over and get on the road. But you'd be wrong, at least in WWE, unless you get special permission. From a practical perspective, in an industry where anything can happen at any time, it makes a lot of sense. You never know who might be needed for what at a moment's notice, so keeping all hands on deck does have some logic to it. When storylines are at stake and things have to make sense, it does benefit the company to have all options available. So even when you see someone on camera hauled out of the arena by security or exit of their own volition in some vehicle or other, don't assume they've scurried off to watch the football game at their hotel. They're likely still in the building in reality, just like everyone else. If you're not looking for it, you might not even notice the tag rope in tag team matches. The idea is, any wrestler who is not legal in the match is supposed to hold on to it until being tagged in. Of course, this often doesn't happen. In Dallas, Texas, though, the rope takes on extra importance. The local sports commission requires its length to specifically be 18 inches. When a WWE event is held in Dallas, an independent inspector is sent to the arena to check and make sure that the rope is exactly as long as it is supposed to be. These inspectors are required to be recertified, hopefully for more than just knowing how to measure a tag rope, every other year. Outside of Dallas, the length doesn't matter, technically, but in the name of efficiency, they're probably the same length everywhere. Vince McMahon is known to be a germaphobe, not wanting anyone to grab candy or other snacks out of a bowl with their bare hands and likely losing his mind if they do. It's also been relayed many times over the years that the WWE chairman hates sneezing. That's right, if you're around Vince, you are expected to withhold even this basic involuntary body function in his presence, and that even goes for his own daughter. Stephanie McMahon told Barstool Sports in 2019, "He doesn't hate me for sneezing, but it's always like a grimace. But on the flip side, I've been around when he has sneezed. It's just because he doesn't like anything he can't control. The fact he can't control the sneeze makes him upset." Paul Heyman confirmed, telling the MMA Hour in 2010 that it all boils down to McMahon being a control freak.
He gets very pissed off because he can't control the sneeze.
WWE brands everything, including its performers. A superstar's name should come to mind immediately as soon as a member of the audience sees them. To achieve this, the commentary team is expected to call talent by their first name, last name, or official nickname as often as possible. They are discouraged from ever referring to calling a performer by a pronoun. The thought is that people watching and listening may not always be able to tell which superstar is being referenced if an announcer were to say he or she. So the commentators have to use names even if it gets repetitive. Legendary commentator Jim Ross explained this better than most could on a recent Grilling JR.
He's killing him. Okay, first of all, who the is he?
Right.
And by the way, who's him?
As Bruce Pritchard often points out on his Something to Wrestle With podcast, Vince McMahon would often let commentators know when they were overusing pronouns, saying, "Pronouns, pal." It's obvious that the days of incessant chair shots and sharp objects in WWE matches are largely long gone. There are a million different reasons for that, first and foremost because of safety concerns. We've learned so much about concussions and CTE for starters that it makes perfect sense to avoid chair shots and other direct blows to the head. Intentional bleeding is all but gone too. Because of this, if a superstar wants to use weapons in a match, they need to be approved beforehand. This may sound like a creative hindrance, but they can still play around with some plunder as long as the higher-ups give them the okay. As for bleeding, while you're not likely to catch a blade job anymore, it's still going to happen the hard way every once in a while. You'll likely just see the match stopped while the injured combatant is tended to by medical personnel, such as when Finn Balor got his head wound stapled back together in the middle of his Hell in a Cell match with Edge at WrestleMania 39. On top of having Vince McMahon's voice in their ears, barking orders about what precisely they are to say, all while they watch the action, listen to their colleagues, and try to speak coherently about what's going on, perhaps it's what commentators are not supposed to say that can most throw them for a loop. The list of supposed banned words and phrases in WWE has only grown over the years. McMahon is very particular about specific words, to say the least. Some of the more prevalent substitutions included: instead of wrestler, say superstar; instead of hospital, say local medical facility; instead of fans, say WWE Universe; instead of pro wrestling, say sports entertainment; instead of house show, say live event; and instead of belt, say championship. That last one there is probably referenced more often than any other, if only for what's been said was McMahon's premise behind the terminology that a belt is something to keep your pants up. Some of these may have changed since Triple H took over WWE creative, but a lot remain. WWE superstars are expected to maintain a certain appearance when out in public, especially if they're appearing somewhere in an official capacity. Business casual for public appearances where they might run into fans is probably a good rule to live by. Granted, there are exceptions. Going to the gym immediately comes to mind, where you're not exactly going to pump iron in a dress shirt and slacks. WWE's investment in the Tap-Out clothing line pays dividends for the superstars in this specific example. It's highly unlikely you'd run into a WWE superstar out on the streets looking like a slob. These ladies and gentlemen are paid well, carry themselves as professionals, and in the end are professional athletes, whose looks are their bread and butter. But to be on the safe side, they may want to go the extra mile on any given day rather than head to the grocery store in an old t-shirt like the rest of us do. This is more of an unwritten rule. When Seth Rollins hits a pedigree, Kevin Owens rocks a stunner, or Damian Priest tosses someone with a razor's edge, don't think those superstars took it upon themselves to make someone else's move their own. In these specific examples, the adoption of the respective moves either happened as part of storyline with consent from the originator or with an outright passing of the torch. Rollins started using the pedigree during his feud with Triple H and still mixes in the move to this day. Owens' implementation of the iconic stunner was met with Stone Cold Steve Austin's approval, but Austin did encourage KO to put some stink on it. And Priest was given permission to use the Razor's Edge by Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon himself, during Hall's time as a guest instructor at the WWE Performance Center. On top of reinventing a move from yesteryear for use in the present day, every now and then you'll see one superstar hit his or her opponent with their own move. This should be kept special and not overused, but we've seen iconic and some infamous moments over the years when one adversary flips the script on the other. It's probably best for WWE superstars to avoid finding any kind of trouble in a bar entirely these days, but if things are gonna go down, they'll want to make sure they don't come out on the wrong end of the fight. Kayfabe isn't what it used to be, but it's still best to uphold the appearance of toughness. You wouldn't want an average Joe going home after a night on the town bragging about beating up a WWE champion. But it's happened. When Shawn Michaels was struggling with alcohol and drug addiction in the mid-90s, he was reportedly beaten to a pulp by 6 Marines in a bar fight. The altercation landed Michaels in the hospital, and he said that wasn't the only time either.
Unfortunately, not anything to be proud of, but I was in that position a lot of times, again, just not beat up, where I would wake up in an emergency room.
Michaels was able to keep his job, but others have not been so lucky.